Good afternoon. It is 3 p.m. and I'll call to order the Board of Directors regular meeting agenda for Monday, May 20th, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Director Meyerhoffen.
Present.
Director Duff.
Here.
Director Martin.
Present.
Vice President Griffith.
Present.
And President Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Right. And I do want to acknowledge that Vice President Griffith will be participating remotely from the following location: Sheraton Grand Sacramento Hotel. Item 4, Pledge of Allegiance. If we'd please stand, and Director Martin, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, place your hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 5, Rules of Procedure. Counselor?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the board, all noticed meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president of the board presides at all meetings and decides all points of order and procedure during meetings. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting, and the board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you. Item 6, Public Input. This is the opportunity for members of the public to address the board on matters within the board's jurisdiction. Please limit comments to 3 minutes or less. State law prohibits the board from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the agenda. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board?
President Sewell, we do not.
Seeing none in person, we'll move on to item 7, Employee Recognition. We did this on Thursday, but was there anything further?
No, President Sewell.
Thank you. Item 8, Desert Hot Springs High School Real Academy Internship Program.
Yes, President Sewell, we're very excited about this internship program, but I will allow our Assistant General Manager, Marion Champion, to discuss this in more detail. Marion?
Thank you very much, General Manager Macy, and good afternoon, President Sewell and members of the board. I am very pleased today to share with you some special guests here in our boardroom. As I mentioned last Thursday, we created a new internship program and we started it this month. And this is with 2 students from Desert Hot Springs High School, and they're part of the Real Academy. And I'm going to give you a quick introduction to each of the students, allow them to have a few words with you and speak to you as well. And their advisor, Casey Heiser, is also in the room. So first, I want to introduce you to Gabriel. Gabriel is a student, as I mentioned, at Desert Hot Springs High School, and he is a senior this year. And he had the opportunity to work with me in the Public Affairs Department as part of his internship. Gabriel has enlisted in the Air Force and plans to study mechatronics, which is the study of electronics, mechanics, and computer control. I'm sorry. Mechatronics engineers use a multidisciplinary and system-based approach to develop the intelligent electromechanical devices and integrated systems present in our daily lives. Outside of academics, his passions include 3D printing and modeling, and he plans to travel as much as possible in the future. In addition to Gabriel, we had Caleb. Caleb is also a senior at Desert Hot Springs High School and enrolled in the Real Academy. Caleb enjoyed participating in our engineering department during his internship. He said that he enjoyed building new connections and gaining practical engineering insights and seeing what the daily life of an engineer entails. Caleb feels that this is helping to prepare him for his studies at Cal Poly in mechanical engineering, which is where he'd like to go this fall. When Caleb is not immersed in his studies or the internship program, he enjoys staying active through basketball, hanging out with his friends at the park, playing video games, or spending time with his two younger siblings. Gabriel, I think you wanted to say something first. You have some input and want to let us know what you thought of the internship?
So my name is Gabriel Mansa, and I believe that the internship was a pretty good opportunity for me to get real world experience. So I was very honored to be on this internship.
Thank you.
Caleb?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Caleb. Obviously, I'm planning on going to Cal Poly Pomona this fall, so this internship was very helpful for me to just gain experience. And everyone I worked with in the engineering department and everyone at MSWD was very kind and helpful. And just it was a great first job experience because I haven't had a job experience before, so it was a great experience in that area, and it was also a great experience like learning what it would be like to be an engineer. So I'm just very grateful for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to what the Rail Academy does with MSWD in the future.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Casey Heiser. In addition, I just wanted to add that in my years at Desert Hot Springs High School, the last 9 years, I've been working to build a program that really does prepare students for life after high school. And it really starts with these type of partnerships. And I'm just really thankful for the board and the Mission Springs staff and Marion Champion for making those connections and providing some real world projects to allow the students to advance and just prepare for life after high school. So on behalf of the educators, thank you all.
Thank you.
And I believe we wanted to take a few photos real quick with the board. April?
One down in front.
Yes.
I think one of the rules for the Real Academy should be that they have to sit through our meeting, so. From start to finish.
All right, moving on to action items. Item 9, award of contract to TriStar Contracting for the 13th Avenue Mission Lakes Boulevard and Thomas Avenue Tropical Storm Hillary Waterline Replacement Project. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to award a contract for the construction of the 13th Avenue Mission Lakes Boulevard and Thomas Avenue Tropical Storm Hillary Waterline Replacement Project to TriStar Contracting, the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $720,823.50 plus a 10% contingency, and augment the project budget an additional $120,000 to do all things necessary to complete the project. General Manager?
Thank you, President Sewell, members of the board. This item was discussed at our Thursday board meeting. Just to reiterate, this is part of the Tropical Storm Hillary response. We had a couple of water lines that sustained some damage. So this project will allow us to fix those 3 crossings. The project was publicly bid. As we said, the lowest bidder is TriStar. And there's 2 components of this: one, awarding the contract for construction, as well as augmenting the capital improvement project budget by $120,000. Myself and Eric are available to ask any additional questions since Thursday.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions or comments, Director Martin,
Not for me.
Director Meyerhoffen, Director Duff? I just had one question, and when we're doing these replacements, is it going to interrupt service at all?
No. In this particular case, no. There's one location where on 13th where there's no pipe right now, but we're going to be able to add to that without any disruptions and then limited disruptions in other places. But I don't believe, Danny, would you like to answer that question a little bit more technically?
Thank you, General Manager Macy. Members of the board, President Sewell, members of the board. There will be a minor outage just for one property while we make a connection for Thomas Avenue, but it's likely no more than 30 minutes. It's going to allow us to take that whole entire line offline and not have anybody else out of service. We've got the ability to go ahead and feed both sides of Mission Lakes, so there's no interruption. The same thing with 13th. 13th is completely off. And so just for that one property, we'll be adding the valve so that we can keep them in service during the duration of the project.
Okay, great. And I'll open public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item?
President Sewell, we do not.
All right, we'll close public comment. And do we have a motion on the item?
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 10, Public Water and Sewer Systems Construction Agreements and Water and Sewer Bonding Agreement for track number 32030-3, Skyborn Village 3. It is recommended to approve the Public Water and Sewer Bonding Agreement for the Skyborn Village 3, track number 32030-3, residential development project, and authorize the general manager to do all things necessary to complete the agreement. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell, members of the board. On Thursday, we did discuss this item. This is specifically for the water and sewer improvements related to Village 3 at Skyborn. Part of this construction process, the owner, once the property was sold, did contribute $3 million to our capital improvement program as part of an agreement with the original Skyborn owners and continued through several amendments with the current Skyborn owners. So at this point, this will allow us to accept the bonds, accept the insurance, and matter of fact, have a pre-construction meeting as early as tomorrow morning. If there are any questions, myself and Eric is available to answer those. Thank you.
Director Duff. Director Martin.
Nothing.
Director Meyerhoffen. And I have nothing further. Thank you. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 10?
We just had Russell Betts join us. Welcome, Mr. Betts. Are you here to observe or do you care to make public comment?
Hi, sorry, I'm just watching. Thank you.
Thank you. President Sewell, there's no public comment.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion for the item? I'll make a motion to approve item 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
and President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 11, accept grant deed for well 35 on a portion of assessor's parcel number 667-100-043. It is recommended to direct the general manager to sign the certificate of acceptance, approving and accepting the grant deed from Skyborn Ventures LLC, a California limited liability company, dated May 8th, 2024 for well 35, currently located on assessor's parcel number 667-100-043 in the city of Desert Hot Springs, Riverside County, California. General Manager.
Thank you, President Sewell, members of the board. We discussed this item on Thursday as a summary. This particular property that we are, a portion we are taking will be for our well 35. It was previously drilled, I believe, in the 2006 timeframe when well 34 was built. Unlike 35, 34, this well was not equipped. until additional development happened as part of the Skyborn development. Now that they're at their location where we can and need that well, we are now equipping that well. Because the regulations had changed, we had to rotate and change some of the dimensions of the original wall that was installed when this well was drilled. However, we have worked with the city to make sure that the Skyborn developer can still maintain and provide a 5 or over acre park to the city. So we've been working with the city as well as the developer to make sure that both our needs for well 35 as well as the commitment for the park is also addressed. At this time, Eric and myself are available to answer any additional questions.
Thank you. Director Martin? Director Meyerhoffen?
Just that one question. Why is the water district concerned with the parcel where a park might go later?
Director Meyerhoffen, the reason we are concerned with this is because when we originally built the wall, that was going to be our well site, if you will. However, the buffer that we need to give for a well the distance has changed over time. Therefore, we have to basically reorientate the site to make sure that we provide the adequate buffer for well 35. Therefore, we've had to work with the city to make sure that they still get their 5 acres and we still get what's necessary for our improvement as well.
I thank you for the clarification.
Director Duff?
Thank you. And thank you for those clarifications, General Manager Macy. For those that may have missed Thursday's discussion, could you just reiterate the question answered that I had on Thursday about ratepayer cost and the arrangements that were made with the original Skyborn and new Skyborn developers that ensure that no ratepayers costs will, no ratepayer funds will be used to complete this project?
Absolutely. When this development started and we and MSWD entered into a development agreement with the owner at the time, they were to provide 2,000 gallon a minute wells, one for each pressure zone. The zone that we're making reference for Village 3, as well as all the other improvements that have happened out there, are still in the lower pressure zone, the 1530 zone. When they drilled 34, they realized that they weren't going to get to 2,000. So then we modified the agreement and then 35 was added. When they drilled both of those wells and realized that together they still did not provide the 2,000 gallons per minute, then it was discussed about a third well. The agreement talks about well 36. However, as we've moved forward in the timeline, there have been some assurances that the developer wanted to make sure that they could sell these properties and not have to take on any additional responsibilities. Therefore, in subsequent agreements, we have received compensation to rehabilitate 34, create the intertie between well 34 and 35, as well as equip 35. The developer has provided that to us in escrow, and that's the funds we are using to do these future improvements for the intertie and well 35 that we'll bring to you in subsequent meetings. In addition to that, well 36 was still a question mark, and they wanted to make sure that they were able to sell Village 3 as well as Village 10. We then put together an amendment where they would compensate Mission Springs Water District when they needed that third well. Village 3 does trigger a portion of that. There were roughly 450 units remaining. So working with the developer, every 90 unit takedown, they are required to write us a $1 million check. Village 3 was roughly 270. They wrote us a check for $3 million when they sold that property. That also started the timeline for them to provide that park. And why this item's in front of you today is because this solidifies what our boundary is and where we can move that wall. With that being said, if any of these projects go over, by these projects, I mean the rehabilitation of 35, 34, 35, or the intertie, then the developer will compensate us for any overage. In addition to, once Village 10 is sold, then we'll receive the final 2 portions of that $5 million. So this project, 34, 35, and the intertie is all developer paid for. No MSWD dollars will be used for these improvements.
General Manager Macy, thank you to you and your staff for ensuring that we hold developers to their agreements and make sure that our community is not paying for development in our city. Thank you so much.
Vice President Griffith, any questions or comments?
I have nothing, thank you.
And sorry for skipping over you those first 2 items. And I have no further questions. Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on item 11?
President Sewell, we do not.
All right, and with that, I'll entertain a motion for the item.
So moved.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
and President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item 12, Resolution 2024-10, grant application for West Palm Springs Village, Palm Springs Crest Water Systems Backup Intertie Project. It is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 2024-10, approving the submission of an application for grant funding for the preliminary planning of the West Palm Springs Village, Palm Springs Crest Water Systems Backup Intertie Project. General Manager?
Thank you, President Sewell. On Thursday, we did talk about these projects and the intent. Part of the strategic plan was to try to find as much grant funding as we could. Will Wheaton, who is at the podium right now, has reached out to Bureau of Reclamation and found a resiliency project that we decided to move forward with. The two smaller areas that are not part of our main system each have 2 wells and 1 reservoir. If we were to combine those, then we would have more resiliency because the systems would be ran off of 4 wells instead of individually 2 each and have 2 reservoirs. We do have a small modification to the application, and Will is going to present that information to you today before we take any questions. Will?
Thank you, General Manager Macy, President Sewell, and members of the board. Last Thursday, you were presented with Resolution 2410 that authorizes the district to apply for grant funding from the Bureau of Reclamation in the amount of $287,000 for the preliminary planning of the Palm Springs Crest West Palm Springs Village Backup Intertie Project. Over the weekend, an adjustment was made to the amount being requested from BOR to include MSWD personnel time, bringing the total amount up to $358,010. Given that the grant can fund up to $400,000 and we are requesting 0% cost share due to the disadvantaged community status of the project area, the grant could still fund the entire amount we are requesting. Also, excuse me, I have one clarification to the answer given to Director Duff's question during the study session last week regarding the location and intersections of the intertie. The intertie would run along Tamarack Road, intersecting at Rushmore Avenue and Tamarack Road on the Palm Springs Crest side, and at Fremontia and Tamarack on the West Palm Springs Village side. I think last time it was said Hagen Lehman, so that was clarified. Of course.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments, Director Martin? Director Meyerhoffen? Director Duff? Vice President?
No.
All right. Thank you very much, Will.
Thank you.
And I'll open public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to address the board on item 12?
President Sewell, we do not.
Close public comment and we're open for a motion.
I'll move it.
We have a motion from Vice President. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Director Meyerhoffen,
Yes.
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion items. Item 13, Nancy Wright, Regional Water Reclamation Facility Update.
Thank you, President Sewell. Our consultant TKE is on the line. Terry, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board. I'll share my screen and we'll get you an update. Is that coming through okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, so with the treatment plant this past month, we've got a lot of the punch list items that the contractor has been working on. We had our clean water testing on the entire plant, which was performed. During that testing, there were a couple of items that they found that either needed to be repaired or have some modifications made to it. This is a picture of the aeration tanks under the clean water test. During that testing, so one of the items that was needing to be repaired was the mixers. They were found to be actually mixing too vigorously, so they had to pull those mixers and make some modifications with the wiring on those. So on the left side, you can see the mixer being pulled. It has since been repaired and reinstalled and is working properly now. On the right side, we have the contractor repairing a couple of the hand railings around some of the tanks. Another item that was found to have an issue during the testing was the 3W system. The 3W system is the water system that basically recirculates some of the treated water throughout the plant to be used for spraying down certain facilities. One of the pipes was found to have a leak inside of it, so they had to remove a little concrete and get down into that pipe and make a repair there. And this has also been repaired and working properly now. At the front of the site, we had the WQMP infiltration pond grading. This was all completed. There's a couple of pictures during the stages of the grading operations. And then on the left, we've got the influent head wall and piping. And then on the right side, just some of the pond grading there. These are also some pictures of that process as it continues. We've got the forming of that head wall on the left side there, and then the completed head wall riprap and the basin slopes behind it. Within the site, we have our finished work going on, or had our finished work going on. So on the left side, they were doing some non-street grout around the pipe penetrations through the walls. And then on the right side, we had our contractor working on just adjusting some of the manholes to grade and doing some finish rings around those. The contractor also finished up the site security system. So there was a lot of different elements that were placed throughout the site, cameras, wiring, whatnot. On the left side, we've got some wiring going into a distribution box there that'll be covered up. And then on the right side, we've got some pull rope laying on the ground there as they were pulling wire through some of the boxes throughout the site. This also continued on the operations building. So they installed cameras and some of the security features on the building itself, shown on the picture on the left. On the right side, they were just completing all the wiring up for the fire alarm system. Within the building, we had the weatherproofing of the doors going in to stop some of the drafts and what other features, the dirt that kind of blows in through the doors. So they got all that weatherproofing installed on the doors, both pictures, one inside, one outside on this slide. And then they were doing some patchwork on some of the masonry. So again, a lot of this is punch list work. So as our inspectors go through and find miscellaneous items, a lot of these are just little minor cleanup items that they would have to patch up. And then on the left side, it was the actual installation of the T-bar ceiling. Within the building, they also added the HVAC thermostat controls and finalized some of the piping and wiring for the HVAC system. Within the electrical portion of the operations building, they were doing some test runs. They had some wiring modifications that they had to make there on the left side. On the right side, just going through each one of the panels on the MCC, make sure everything was wired properly, working properly, and then also getting all of those MCCs properly labeled. Our contractor did demobilize the site, so all of the temporary trailers have been removed from the site, as well as the majority of the storage containers. On the conveyance line, so last month we had our bypass pumping going on for the lift station. On the left side, we had to construct a temporary bypass. So they fused that pipe up above ground and then laid it into an open trench there and covered that up. That was used to temporarily bypass the lift station while the permanent connections, which will reroute that lift station to the treatment plant, were made. On the right side, one of those, that picture there is one of those connections that was used for the final routing of the force main system. So some of these pictures are also just some of the connections here for the final connection for that force main system. A lot of these are just different opportunities to move that water around while we can make the current force main and the current lift station work properly. On the street level, we did have the trench paving go in. This was the temporary trench paving throughout a couple of different areas. The one on the left side and the right side actually are both of the temporary bypass areas outside of the lift station. Down at the west end of the force main, we have our vortex manhole. So they actually dropped the vortex system into the manhole. This system essentially takes the force main water and it spins it down that vortex into the bottom of the manhole. And this allows the sewer water to minimize the aeration that goes on through the process of dropping down that extra distance to get into the gravity sewer. And this helps prevent additional odors from being emitted through this manhole. For our funding and permitting update, so I do have good news on the phase 1. So reimbursement requests number 2 and 3, Q2 and Q3, were both approved by the state for payment on 5/2. Those should be in the state's check routing system. I think as of earlier this week, Mission Springs had not received a check for it yet, but those are in process and we should be receiving a check soon on those too. That total is about $15.5 million. For Q4 invoice, that is still in review by the state. That's a $4.1 million invoice. For the WDR special provisions, the monitoring well number 3, the contractor Yellow Jacket is scheduled to resume construction in June. We got all of the easements and everything signed from our last update. So they're getting ready to start back up in June. For our Q2 update to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, that's not due till 7/15, so we still have a little bit of time before we're going to be submitting that. On the sampling of the private wells, all parties have agreed to the language that was provided, so the final well access agreement is just routing through for signatures by everyone. And again, on that one as well, the bi-monthly update for the Regional Water Quality Control Board, that'll be the April-May time period. That's not due till June 15th. So again, a little bit of time before we submit that. For phase 2 on the conveyance line, the FBA submitted, the state has reached out and finally provided a request for some additional information that was on May 7th. We have prepared that information and are attempting to resubmit that to the state, but their FAST system is their online system where you resubmit, is having trouble right now. We've tried to upload it a couple of times and it just keeps kicking back. So we have a troubleshooting ticket open with the state to figure out how to get this information to them. And with that, I'll open it for questions.
Thank you. Director Duff?
Thank you. On the phase 2 FBA that you just referenced, can you give us an idea on some of the additional information they requested?
They were just requesting information about some of the documents that were provided, some backup documents and other things.
From other contractors or from, like, as far as billing or budgeting? I'm just trying to get an idea of what type of information they were requesting.
So this was for the original agreement to basically have the project approved for funding. So no contractor or that kind of information yet. This is just the the original submittal of plan specs and the agreement to get it approved.
Okay, so they just need clarification on what we were asking for, I guess?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Vice President?
I have a question regarding the repairs. So you mentioned the 2 repairs. Given that this is not even operational, that is, we don't get charged for those repairs, do they, since this equipment is not even in use?
Correct. That is, there is no additional charges for those repairs.
Okay, thank you.
Director Martin?
Terry, what's the maintenance time frame on that before we would have to pay for some of those things? What's the warranty times? I know they vary from item to item.
Yeah, so depending on what item we're talking about, some of them would have, your standard maintenance time is 1 year. But on some of these electrical items and some of the pumps and those things that, that can vary to, quite a bit longer than 1 year. The leak in the 3W system, that would have been a 1-year warranty item. And then I'd have to check the specific pump and see what that warranty was on the mixer. But the pump actually, or the mixer system wasn't defective. It was just a wiring issue and how heavily ramped up the mixer was running. So they just had to rewire it essentially.
Director Martin, any questions? Director Meyerhoffen?
Well, thanks for all the work you're doing out there. Very complicated thing you got going on. I'm really still concerned about this money coming from the state. And all through this, seems to be some paperwork that isn't done or work that isn't done. And so I'll be relieved when I see that money coming. And we have no idea when it's supposed to get here, or it's just been approved, the 2 sections you just said. But it still has a great concern of why we've gone on for so long without getting the money. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. I am concerned about getting the rest of this money. In fact, I'm almost convinced we aren't getting it at all until tonight. So keep up the work, keep moving forward, and just get this thing operational and going. And have a big a debt coming up with the operational cost of $500,000 a year. Keep this thing running. And I'm not sure who we're hooking up to yet. So I have a lot of concerns still. Thank you and for the job you're doing, and keep moving forward and get that paperwork filled out correctly and get it in there. Thank you.
Understood. You're welcome.
Thank you, Terry, for the presentation. I do have one just kind of curiosity question. It might be more for staff. You showed the pictures of the lift station and the bypass. We have the ability to go to either plant once this is all complete. Is it very easy to switch between the two if we were to have an issue where one plant, I mean, is it just as simple as turning a valve, or is it more of a?
Yeah, so the way it was designed, we did install a valving that could be modified and switch it. Once the treatment plant is operational, though, the Horton system, we can still send water back up to Horton and recirculate if we had to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Item 14, Critical Services Center and Administration Building Update. I believe Alvin's on the line.
Yes, Alvin, go ahead.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, General Manager Macy. Good afternoon, President Sewell, members of the board and district staff. Last week, we met with the City of Desert Hot Springs and was able to go through preliminarily our submittal to them. This is something that we had discussed with them very early on, just to make sure that everything's going well and that we're still on track in terms of what the city is looking for in terms of what we're going to be submitting to them. And directly before the meeting, they actually gave us an updated pre-application checklist, which was very helpful, that we used as a guide for our meeting. And I'll walk you through basically what we presented to them and maybe note some of the questions that they had. So again, a new checklist that we hadn't seen before, but everything looked to be in line, and we were able to go through each item individually to make sure that we understood what it was and that the city was happy with what we're submitting. So one of the items was showing the existing conditions. providing some photographs of the existing site and noting some similar architecture or similar nearby architecture. So we noted the Desert Hot Springs Library just down the street from our new facility. A lot of these I've already presented, at least individually to the board for the last couple of meetings, but this is kind of putting everything together. And this is, like I mentioned, how we basically presented this to the board or to the city as well. So a new site plan, and maybe I can skip over to civil grading plan if that loads up. So with that, showing the water quality management basin in this bottom corner here, along with the preliminary grading that our civil is looking at. And again, as we walk through these, the city jumped in with a handful of questions here or there, just to help clarify some items. One of them was, I think it was actually on the landscape plan, noting at the visitor parking to make sure that was going to be shaded. If it was going to be done with trees, that those trees would just have to grow in within 10 years. And we were able to show them that that is the plan currently, that at this visitor parking that we were going to provide these trees there. One other item I wanted to note, landscaping wise, again, everything more or less is the same from the last time I presented, except I know we had a note about this image and this arrangement of planting. So our landscape architect looked at trying to incorporate that near the entry to the administration center. So we're still working out the details of that, but that at least conceptually is what we're looking at is maybe a good spot to put what we're calling the Mission Springs Water District water drop at that location. One of the other questions that the city brought up that we had was regarding the photometric study and making sure that the lights that we're going to be providing are shielded. And I believe this was also brought up previously in one of the other board meetings. And we noted it there that there are night sky compliant lights, and the city was happy with those as well. So, and a couple of questions on the fire access plan. Just the next sheet here. And again, we're able to note fire truck access. We needed to clarify a couple of things regarding the fire hydrants, but again, I think the city was generally happy with where the documents are, and it felt that everything that we had presented was adequate and could be reviewed by the city. A couple of other items that we discussed that we're still working to finalize is the preliminary geotechnical report. The borings have already been completed, so we're just looking to get that preliminary information. A traffic study, and that was done, and I believe that was already passed over to the city for their preliminary review, and that'll also be included within our city submittal once, if we hear any feedback from the city on what was provided. The environmental compliance is also being completed, and that rounds out the bulk of the big items that we need to include. Just as a general note, the city is very excited for this project and happy to see it moving forward. And it seemed like they were going to work with the district in terms of doing their best to fast track this once we get this submitted. It was discussed. Right now, we're targeting, again, this was some of the preliminary meetings based on that we're able to basically forecast a July Planning Commission meeting / approval. And right now we're working on developing the schedule in order to hit that timeline, since the city also explained to us some of their other nuances in terms of once we get this submitted, the back and forth. I want to say they have a advertising period as well, and making sure that we dial all that in to make sure that on that July Planning Commission meeting, everything's ready to go and be approved. So with that, if there's any questions or comments.
Thank you. Director Meyerhoff.
You said the environmental issues, you were working on them?
The environmental compliance report.
Yeah,
Yes, so the district hired a environmental analyst to review those. So I know that they had already done some of their initial studies on the site, and they're gathering the rest of the information. They had a couple of questions from us that we needed to clarify, and we provided that info. So everything should be going on track for that.
well, I have a problem you may want to speak with them about. The library, which is located right down the street from the Critical Service Center's new location here, the Horton Treatment Plant.
Mhm.
They're having a sewer smell problem inside the library.
Okay.
And it's a brand new library. And I believe it's coming from the sludge truck. And we're gonna have that same problem with this building here with the environmental issues of the air quality. So I'm very concerned about that. And I would like to have an update on what they find.
Understood.
I represent District 5. And there are some smells that come off of the Horton Treatment Plant. Not only can I smell sometime at my house, but the people at Bell's Palmer's can smell it. And we need to address that issue. I'm not going to allow it to happen unless we have the proper documentation for their quality. My second problem here is in your diagram that you have up right now, we see here where it says operations building.
Mhm.
How, right now, we have most of this space taken up where you're gonna put the critical service center. So you're gonna take everything that's there now, at the Horton Treatment Plant, you're gonna tear it down, put a critical service center in, and move everything over here to the operations building. I don't know how you're gonna get what you have now that you want to tear down for the $680,000, put into this little building here. I was told the idea of this is because we had not enough room for a supply building.
The new
Yeah.
operations building is significantly larger than the existing buildings that they have currently on the corporate yard site.
And this is my other problem. I've been asking for a plot plan that shows how everything's laid out, the dimensions, where it's gonna be, you know, where your lot lines, the setback. And I'm not getting it. So I have no idea what you're doing, how it's all gonna fit in. And I've been asking for this for like 3 months. So first of all, I want to know how we're gonna take care of that air quality issue. And I'd like to have that report. If I don't get it, then I'll be going to an outside agency to look into it. Thank you.
Director Martin, any comments or questions?
No, I just have a question for Director Meyerhoffen. So when you said you were asking for the plans, the plot plans, repeat that again, what was you were asking for?
What we have now, you know, I guess is where the parking is here,
Yeah.
about halfway into that first pond, right? So everything west of that, between the park and that pond,
Okay.
we have all the buildings for the trucks and work on them and supply. It seems like all that space is now being put into this operation building, and I don't see how it's going to fit.
I see. Okay, thank you. No,
No questions. Clarification.
Director Duff, questions or comments? Vice President Griffith?
Thank you, Alvin. I actually kind of impressed that so much work has gone into this, and also based on what you've stated, you clearly pay attention to when we run our mouths, because there's several things that you updated in here that were just minor things that people had mentioned. And so I really appreciate the attention to detail and the hard work on this, and I look forward to continued progress. Thank you.
And yeah, overall great presentation. I think every month that you come in with the presentation, we're seeing the diagrams and plots. So I guess the one concern that we brought up before was the turning radius of some of our larger vehicles and that area by the operations center. Has that been kind of alleviated?
For the most part, yeah, this plan does show how a fire truck would navigate through the site. And then the last piece, I don't have it on this plan, but basically how to leave the bays. So we have adjusted the size of the bays and a little bit of the location of those just to make sure that, yeah, a vehicle pulling in here will have enough room to move to the outside. So I'll make sure I bring that diagram at the next update. So.
Okay, great. And we have a few more questions. Director Byron?
One more thing. Naturally, with the landscaping, I forgot it, right?
Mhm.
So we have a grant for $100,000 for landscaping. That's what I meant. We don't have that. Do we have it? I see somebody shaking their head. I'm wondering. General Manager Macy, maybe he can answer that question. Do we have
Director
$100,000?
Meyerhoffen, yes, we have a $100,000 grant through the Integrated Regional Water Management.
I'm sorry.
You were cutting out, Brian.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we do have a $100,000 grant through the Integrated Regional Water Management Group,
Okay. So in that
and it will be
grant,
going towards this project.
what happened?
They'll be going towards this project.
So in that grant, you told them what plants you were gonna use and that you were gonna have a demonstration garden. You just said, hey, I need $100,000. Give up.
No, we did not have to go to that level of detail.
You didn't have to go
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm cutting out. I apologize. I don't mean to talk over anyone.
So I'm not seeing a demonstration garden here in the landscape plants. I'm seeing a bunch of cactus that, and I've said before. Huh? Well, I'm not sure if you understand what a demonstration garden really is. Anyways, yeah, you got a bunch of cactus there. If you're gonna have kids come through a demonstration garden, one of the first things I learned in landscape design is no cactus. Things that will poke a kid, something that can fall into it. Kids just take, you see them in the grocery store, they take off running like a rocket and come back. So, yeah, we need to learn, be concerned about this demonstration garden, what we're putting in it. And, you know, when you come right down to it, you want water-wise plants, go turn your irrigation off. And a couple months from now, if they're still alive, you've got water-wise native plants. I'm not seeing what we're doing here with this demonstration. So that's just another concern of mine, the landscaping. And I don't know what, I've been hollering about it for going on 2 years now.
Director Duff, additional question?
Thank you. I got a little distracted and I forgot the questions or comments that I had for you, Alvin. Thank you. As you prepare to go to the Planning Commission, I just wanted to make one notation, something I observed over the year I spent observing. One of their commissioners has done a lot of research on heat islands.
Okay.
Is very intuitive as far as and concerned with the pavement and the blacktop, using the cooling surfaces whenever and wherever possible. So those may be things that you may want to have in your back pocket, ready to pull out if those become questions, because I know that that is a concern as far as increasing the heat that all of that pavement will bring. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvin.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda. This month's consent agenda consists of item 15, approval of minutes, item 16, register of demands, and item 17, resolution 2024-09, adoption of the updated board handbook. Would anyone like to pull one of these items for discussion?
What handbook are we talking about?
The board handbook.
Yeah, I'd like to pull that.
All right, we'll pull item 17. Resolution 2024-09, adoption of the updated board handbook. It is recommended to adopt resolution 2024-09, approving the updated board of directors handbook. It's on page 153. Marion, I don't see general manager. Marion, would you like to address this item or?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Sewell. This was an update of the handbook. There were two primary things that we changed. First, we added in the new mission, vision, and value statements into the board handbook. And then secondarily, there's an area where we talk about leadership of the board. We added that it is encouraged that anyone who's going to take on a leadership role within the board, that they consider taking courses either with CSDA or another organization such as them. There is a red line version, I believe, in your packet.
Yes, thank you. And we have discussed this, I believe, at 2 workshops or maybe 1 board meeting and a workshop. And then we left it open for any directors to submit any changes they might have. In the last month or 2, we have not received any additional. So it is here to approve today. Do you have any questions, Director Meyerhoffen?
As I've said before, with our last director's handbook, there's a number of things in there we're not following. So to redo the director's handbook when we can't do the first one doesn't make any sense. I've also mentioned that if you follow AB 1234, that you wouldn't have a need for the director's handbook, basically, other than to basic operation here. So I'm very concerned about the director's handbook and what it's going to really be used for in the end. I'm going to continue to use AB 1234 and the harassment training. So I'm not going to go along with it.
All right. Well, I wish your concerns would have resulted in some action on your part to provide the changes you wanted to see. But this is what we have for today. So, Director Martin, do you have any questions on what we are presenting today?
No.
Director Duff?
No, but I'd be willing to make a motion.
All right. And let me just check with Vice President. Any questions or comments on item 17?
None, but I'm happy to make a second after Director Duff.
I believe we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call vote for item 17? We'll do that separately.
Director Meyerhoffen,
No,
Director Duff,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Griffith, Vice President Griffith, my apologies, and President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. And then the rest of the consent agenda, item 15 and 16, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I think we'll give the motion to Russ since he's here, but the second.
I will second.
Perfect. With that, may I have a roll call vote for the consent agenda?
Director Meyerhoffen,
yes,
Director Duff,
Yes.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Vice President Griffith,
Aye.
President Sewell.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right. Reports. Item 18, Director's Report. Vice President Griffin, I believe, is the only one that went on Thursday. Anyone jumping to go first? All right. Director Martin?
Yeah, April was kind of a busy month for me, so I'll try and get through these as fast as I can. On the 2nd of April, attended virtually the Desert Hot Springs City Council meeting. There were 3 public hearings, 2 of which related to cannabis user fees and permit renewal. On the 4th, Legislative Affairs Desert Valley Builders Association meeting. And as usual, representatives from the federal government, county, cities, utilities, gas, water, electric, a lot of good information was divulged at that time. On the 6th of April, I attended the chili cook-off, which was a fundraiser for Food Now, and it was held at the Lindy Biggie's Bird Sanctuary in Palm Desert. That was a very worthwhile event to attend. It was especially nice because we were one of the sponsors of that group, and our own mayor won first place prize for his chili. So that was a double positive. On the 9th of April, Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting, nothing to report there. It was a relatively short meeting. On the 12th, State Assemblyman Greg Wallace tour of the Nancy Wright Treatment Facility. That's always refreshing to see an elected official take an interest in a project that we are making, and I'm just glad to see him out there taking that tour. On the 16th, Desert Hot Springs City Council meeting. Couple more public hearings on the cannabis facilities, and there was an excellent presentation by our Assistant General Manager, Marion Champion, on the Earth Day celebration at Cabot's. On the 18th, Riverside County Annual Convention, Coachella Valley Business Conference and Economic Forecast. It was an excellent keynote speaker by a Christopher Thornburg, PhD, and he talked about that we're looking pretty good in the Coachella Valley as far as the economic forecast goes. 24th of April, Desert Valley Builders Association Networking Night, nothing to report there. On the 25th, Desert Valley Builders Association General Membership Luncheon. There was a presentation by the National Association of Home Builders. The DVBA had recently joined that organization, and they're very influential and as a influence in Washington, D.C. So it was nice to be on board with them. On the 25th, Desert Valley Builders Association Networking Night, nothing to report there. On the 30th, Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting. They gave out 15 Volunteer of the Year awards, and they also increased law enforcement rates, the sheriffs with those cities that contract with the sheriff's department. On the 13th, the Women's Club barbecue, well attended, good food. On the 20th, Earth Day celebration, it was previously mentioned at Cabot's. That was a really terrific event. On the 24th, Tribal Water Authority meeting presentation on the salt nutrient management plan. And that was a interesting perspective on that issue. And that's all I have.
You sure don't get out much, huh?
No, I don't. I have nothing to do on my days. I'm not employed like the rest of us. So,
Director Meyerhoffen, would you like to do your report?
Yes, thank you. The CSDA Leadership Academy Module 1, it was on the 3rd and the 4th. To be honest with you, I didn't get too much out of it. And it's maybe because I've been involved with my involvement with the city, with the different commissions I served, 3 different commissions I served on, and all the meetings I went been to in the past with the city that I kind of do most of it when it came up. DHS Planning Commission. Those have been kind of short meetings. The city, since I was a planning commissioner there, the city has kind of streamlined things, make it faster for the developers, which is, it is coming in nice form. On Park Lane, the city is now, or the planning department, I should say, is talking with the county about the county low-income housing project they want to put on Park Lane, which may or may not affect their critical service centers with the traffic studies. Next one here, I went to Business Conference and Economic Forecast Report. Yes, Marion Champion was there, Director Martin and myself. I found it to be very interesting. A doctor that was there, I guess he had doctor in economics or something, medical doctor, but a doctor in economics, was very informative. I wasn't sure if I agree with him 100% on what he was saying with the homeless part of it, but the rest of it really made you look at things in a different perspective when he was through a lot of things. The narrative, you spoke about the narrative, about how we set the story, how we politicians start setting the story for themselves. The district here sets a story. And whatever we start off with this agenda is the start of that story. Between the start and the end. So the outcome is how we start the story. Well, we really have to start taking a look at what we're saying, what we're doing, because that's the story that's going to come out in the end. The next one here is the BA. Okay, yes. BIA. Building Industry Association. They're a little bit different than the other people I've been with at their meetings. These folks here are a little more aggressive when it comes to the developers. They have an attorney that spoke there and just came flat out and told them, this is how you want to present it when you go to the city, to the planning department. This is how you can get the waiver. And then this is how you continue with your project. So I did call the council member and let them know that, make sure the city has everything all together when these people come up before you. The next one. Yeah, let's see here. Oh, yeah. CV Kennison, Mastery in Marketing. AI is what they were really talking about, artificial intelligence. And you wonder what that has to do with water. It's just a matter of time before artificial intelligence will be turning off and on those valves. A matter of time before artificial intelligence will be coming here to take some jobs, I think. Not to take jobs, but to reorganize some of the jobs that you already have. Because you can actually take artificial intelligence, program it to where you can have a 20-minute conversation with the customer. So customer service can be now handled with AI through a 20-minute conversation. So it's very interesting where they're coming from. It's really something that, as I said, the next time that that presentation is done, I'm going to be requesting that April Scott come to take a look at it. Okay, and then the chili cook-off. I got my directions all mixed up. I got a phone. It wouldn't give me the right address. It had me going somewhere else for something similar. So I missed the chili cook-off. But I'm glad everything went well. Congratulations to the mayor for winning first prize. The next one was Greg Wallace, tour of the, and never mind, the Nancy Wright Service Center. It was a very good tour. Appreciate some of them in Wallace coming. I wish we could have had more directors show up to greet them and take the tour with them. It was nice to see it, the inner workings of all the different people that PKA has there working. They must have 5 or 6 of them, and then the other people doing all the testing and everything. It was quite, not mind-boggling, but quite interesting how they were coordinating all that. And that's it. That's it for now.
Thank you. Director Duff?
I think I'm trying to task Director Martin and figure out who can be busier. But I do have a 4-year-old at home, so I think
You're busier.
you no matter what.
I know.
Anyway, I had a very busy April. I attended my first Riverside County Board of Supervisors meeting in Riverside on the 2nd. And I thought that was kind of, I'd never been to one, so I found it interesting in how they handle the procedures and the way in which they conduct the meeting. But they had about 25 public speakers talking about the validity and certification of not only the primary that was just held, but they're still talking about the 2022 elections. It's a little sad to hear that, but that's the case. They also, it was funny because they voted to approve the sale of a parcel to CVWD, which I had just the month before reported on from attending the CVWD meeting. So I got to see that come full circle and see them approve that sale on their part. The healthcare workers union was there. They had a negotiated contract, and so they were there in full force to ensure that it got approved. And then they also continued a year of an $8.4 million fire and EMS contract for the city of Banning. And then let's see, there's also a $1.6 million bond that's going to affect all districts in the county of Riverside for the 215 corridor redevelopment, which is also approved by the county board. Then on the 9th, I attended the CVWD board meeting. They approved the First Amendment to their general manager's contract, and I believe it was a 4.6% raise he received. And then they adopted their 2024 local hazard mitigation plan. And there was an update that they were waiting for from FEMA that they weren't able to share. They also approved a professional service agreement with SWCA to prepare the plan that they had just approved. On the 11th, I attended an Aqua Sigma implementation subcommittee Zoom call. Still a lot of conversation going on between the GSAs as to what kind of enforcement authority Sigma has given them, how they can start enforcing on the districts under their control and under their authority when the districts don't comply with their requests. It's kind of a depressing call for me to sit on as a district representative because it's all the GSA leaders that are trying to figure out how to enforce on people like us, but that's what the call was about, unfortunately. On the 12th, I attended an almost all day CSDA summit online. They talked about fleet electrification, the additional work needed on that, operating costs of renewable energies, although they may be lower or not as stable as nuclear power, and they're still trying to make a push for that. They had a presentation from the state's chief in CAL FIRE. Their primary focus is prevention, and with all the rains they received, they were reminding everyone that there's a lot of flammable foliage out there, and we need to keep our eye out and call if we see flames. Also, they had a very interesting presentation from the Office of Emergency Services, the director there, and this is for our staff member, Will. They encourage setting up a scoping call with their office to determine if we can qualify for any of their grant programs that might have to do with a combination of grants that they have, like something that might assist fire prevention, but also assist infrastructure and public way. So they said do a scoping call for free so you can see what might be available in combination or with local communities. So I wanted to make that note to our staff. Let's see here. Then the last speaker was Assemblymember Holden, and this is why unfortunately I couldn't go see Assemblymember Wallace at the Nancy Wright facility because it was the same time. And his presentation was about an hour and a half. He talked about the state's priorities being, recovering our economy as number one and protecting our assets as number two. He shared with us a lot of bills, both current and in the future. And he also spent some pretty good amount of time talking about the introduction of hydrogen energy into our state and how that is planning on being rolled out and the way that they are looking on how those costs will affect disadvantaged communities in particular. On the 19th, I attended the Aqua Legislative Subcommittee, and we approved the committee's work plan, vision, and goals. This subcommittee meeting was very interesting to me, as this subcommittee is going to get a precursory look at bills that are coming down the way, and we're able to then talk with our district staff to give real life indications to pros and cons as to how it would affect the district versus them kind of looking at it as a vacuum without boots on the ground that they can actually talk to. So I think that's going to be a really big benefit to the Aqua's legislation committee. On the 20th, my family and I went to the Cabot's Museum. Although we were sad to have been a little late and missed the Real Academy presentation, we got to see their model, and what a great asset that is to our community. Cabot's is really a great place to visit. On the 23rd, attended the second CBWD board meeting of the month, and their engineer presented their CBWD 2024-2025 engineers report, where they did say no rack rate increases were going to occur for this coming year, and that their water levels were stable, except they did discuss the 20 acre-foot decrease in one of the areas of Mission Creek, and talked about the Thomas Levy area as also being an issue, but then boasted on how they've met their 20-year goals early, and that the Whitewater aquifer was able to get a 4 million acre-foot recharge, which seemed so large to me. And I'm still trying to locate the actual report because I think maybe there was a misspeak there. Anyway, let's see what else. Just make sure. Oh, and then one of the directors had made comment that the state water project allocation is most likely going to land around 40% for this upcoming year, which isn't good news. So another reason why we really need to be looking at our water resources. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just have two. I'll be quick. April 10th, Aqua Legislative Symposium. Vice President Gifford did speak on this on Thursday, but overall I thought it was a great event, a lot of important information. The main topics they were focused on was Sigma and making water conservation a way of life. Lots of familiar Aqua faces there, and I think it's good that we as MSWD continue going to these events and hopefully becoming a familiar face. So then April 17th, Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce Mixer. It was held at Timalpak Farm in Coachella down in East Valley. I had a great conversation with Jason Dafford, the general manager from Valley Sanitation District, and we spoke some on California Association of Sanitation Agencies, CASA. So I'm looking forward to their having a conference later this year that I'll be attending. But he was definitely complimentary of the programs and offerings that they have. Another topic that came up quite often was the amount of people that know Marion Champion. I think just about everybody that saw my MSWD name tag that day brought Marion up, and maybe it was the East Valley, but you had just received your promotion to assistant general manager, and when I mentioned it, no one was surprised. They all were very complimentary of your work. So overall, the mixer was good, and it was nice to see how many people are familiar with MSWD now through Marion Champion. And that's all I have. We'll move on to item 19, General Manager's Report. We covered both finance and public affairs on Thursday. Did we have anything further?
No, not at this time, President Sewell.
All right. And did we have any questions or comments on the General Manager's Report? Seeing none, we will move on to item 20, District Council comments.
Yes, I gave my report on Thursday and have nothing to add.
And no closed session today.
No closed session today.
Thank you.
Put it on Thursday.
Item 21, Director's comments and requests for future agenda items. Director Meyerhoffen.
Excuse me. Let me go.
Sure. Director Martin.
Yes, I also signing up to attend the conference, the CASA conference, and but we haven't yet had a discussion or voted on a membership yet, have we? I mean, that's
not the.
We put that on the agenda for a future thing and take a vote on membership of that. Or?
Yeah. Do you think it would be appropriate after we attend the conference, just to have a better? I mean, I don't know if there's.
How about we just bring that up in the discussion since it isn't on the agenda today? Bring
Okay.
it up for discussion and address that issue, whether or not it would be better to going afterwards or before.
Okay.
I don't know whether there's a different rate for members to attend the conference that might make it more advantageous for us to be a member before the conference, but let's address that at the future.
President Sewell, if you don't mind the interruption, CASA is honoring the member rate for you all to attend. They would love to see us be members, but they are honoring the member rate and not making us pay the non-member rate for this conference.
Okay. Maybe we can put it as an item on a workshop, but I would be more comfortable approving us joining after I attend the conference. But
That's okay, whatever.
okay. And any other comment? Russ? Director Martin, did you have any other comment? Oh, Director Duff?
Just one, school is coming to a close and it's getting hotter, and that means pool time. And I hate being a Debbie Downer, but everyone needs to be watching their kids in the pools. Please remember water safety. And those of you who are going out to the Mission Creek Preserve area, some of that water can get pretty fast moving. Please watch your children. Have a safe summer and happy graduations to all who are graduating. Thank you.
My favorite character is Debbie Downer. on Saturday Night Live.
Director Meyerhoff, did you have any?
Saturday Night Live. Yeah, I could talk about Saturday Night Live. I was a little hesitant to go. Thank you for giving me a moment there to gather my thoughts. I'm very concerned, as I mentioned earlier. It's not my intentions to come against the district or anybody here. I think I'm going to go ahead and notify another agency what's going on here with the smell from the truck and the other smells coming from the Horton treatment plant. We're putting a $30 million building in a 50-year-old sewer treatment plant. And I really don't feel like I'm getting any cooperation from the district. I've spoke to one director about my concerns about the smell. I spoke to somebody else here at the district about it. Just now, this is the second time I requested to get the environmental reports, and there was really no response. And I just feel that I'm going to have to act on my own and go outside of the district to file some complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Griffith, do you have any comments or requests for future agenda items?
I have none. Thank you.
Right, and I have none as well. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.